Right, so this is a video I never wanted to make about a book I never wanted to read. But there is no shortage of real, live predators who behave remarkably like the point-of-view character of this book, so here we are. And to anyone who has hitherto been disinclined to see the value in this book due to its distressing subject matter and themes, first of all, I can't blame you because I was too. Second of all, between these two pictures, which would your most repressed, tight-sphinctered relative see as the more socially acceptable couple? How about these pictures? Feel free to file those questions away in temporary storage while I use the androgynous sound of my voice to share with you a few frustrated but sincere words about Lolita, written by Vladimir Nabokov, and first published in 1955 after only 4 rejection notices, the rat think. In case you are unfamiliar with Lolita's story, it is one in which boy meets girl who is roughly his own age. Boy and girl fall in love as only children on holiday at the beach can. Boy has sex with girl, girl dies tragically young. Not related incidents as far as we know. Boy grows to manhood, but never parts with his lust for girls in their preteens/early teens, and regularly punishes the women in his life for showing signs of sexual maturity, such as wide hips, breasts bigger than kumquats, and the desire to have sex more than once a marriage. One such woman is Mrs. Hayes, whose husband died, leaving her alone with a young daughter to raise named Dolores. Remember this, it will be on the test. Man, also known as Humbert squared, sees the young Hayes girl in all her jailbait-esque glory, dubs her Lolita, and falls hopelessly in love with her. Humbert squared moves into one of the empty rooms Mrs. Hayes has for rent, and starts cozying up to her so he can get closer to the little girl. Mrs. Hayes and Mr. Humbert get married. Girl goes to summer camp. Mr. Humbert not only wishes his wife were dead so he could make time with his stepdaughter before she starts looking too greatly like a woman. He writes down all his horrible, fixating thoughts in a journal, which he keeps hidden in the study. Mrs. Hayes, now the unfortunate Mrs. Humbert, finds the journal, reads it, freaks all the way out, runs frantically from their house, and gets hit by a car. Mrs. Humbert dies shortly thereafter. Mr. Humbert is, shall we say, less than devastated. Humbert retrieves Lolita from camp, takes her to a hotel, and has sex with her for the first time. Lolita, despite the narrator's insistence that,
"I'm going to tell you something very strange. It was she who seduced me,"
understandably feels gross the next day, says she would like to see her mother, and is told by Humbert that her mother is dead. From there, in order to keep the little girl amused and isolated, the two of them go on an extensive tour of no-tell motels, where Humbert takes sexual gratification at every stop, and makes that gratification a part of Lolita's chores, the way some girls are required to wash dishes or fold towels. Unfortunately for him, life on the road gets too expensive. Humbert enrolls Lolita in an all-girls school, tries very hard to keep her isolated by refusing to let her socialize outside of class, but eventually allows her to trade him sexual favors in exchange for getting to participate in drama class. Drama goes well. Lolita is quite the little actress, and Humbert starts to get suspicious when his little girl starts acting happy outside her norms, as opposed to merely crying in the bathroom every night when she thinks he's asleep. Then, for seemingly no reason, Lolita drops out of drama class and begs Humbert to take her back on the road, which he does. Mile by mile, Humbert grows increasingly controlling and paranoid that someone is following them, until one fine day, Lolita disappears. Months pass Humbert by, then years, as he obsessively retraces his steps to find someone had indeed been following them, but that someone used a fake name when checking into the same hotels as them, and the trail goes cold. At long last, a toxic relationship or two later, Lolita voluntarily gets in touch. Humbert goes to see her with a gun in his pocket, fully intending to kill whichever man has come between him and his young concubine, finds she is pregnant and happy with a gentle young man in honest work, and she tells Humbert in casual conversation who the guy was that took her away from him. Turns out, her drama teacher back in school had an eye for young girls shockingly like that of Humbert squared, and Lolita, having been uniquely trained by her stepfather to trade sex for what she needed, parlayed her feminine wiles toward a completely different predatory situation, but one in which she had far greater agency, and from which she was eventually able to walk away. Humbert cries a little, gives Lolita some money from the settlement of her mother's estate, and takes the gun to the drama teacher's house. When Humbert arrives, he finds the drama teacher is piss-drunk, and to Humbert's profound annoyance, is incapable of taking him seriously as an armed intruder. So Humbert fires the gun. The drama teacher swoons, and rhapsodizes, and acts out an over-the-top death scene, but doesn't actually die. Humbert fires again. Drama teacher gets still more theatrical with his gasps and groans, but still doesn't die. By and by, Humbert empties the gun into his quarry, all the while thinking the drama teacher is the real pervert, not sweet, adorable Humbert. And throughout the reading of this book, I don't think I experienced a single LOL, but this incompetent murder scene might be the closest I came to one. It is quite impossible to take it as anything but a blatant impotency metaphor between two sad old men, and would not be noticeably out of place in a John Waters film. After what seemed like ages of hamming up his own IRL death scene, the drama teacher dies. Humbert confesses to the murder, goes to jail, and as far as we know, writes for us the last of his story, as he has been penning it from his jail cell at the request of his lawyer, the end. Now, in case it was not obvious, Lolita is not what I would call a fun read. Despite his own stratospheric opinion of himself, the character of Humbert Squared has no redeeming qualities, and since more than 90% of the story is told by him, you can't get away from his bounty of reprehensible thoughts. He is quite the racist. He has no problem drugging women and girls in situations where consent is not a guarantee. He fantasizes about future generations of Lolitas when the one he has in tow has grown too old to be a, quote, nymphette, unquote. Like, you know it's bad when Jeremy Irons can't make you love Humbert Humbert, but Humbert Humbert can make you hate Jeremy Irons a little bit. And yet, this book is largely esteemed a masterpiece, if not the literary equivalent of high art. So, assuming that multiple generations of literary critics are not mistaken, or merely pretending to have read Lolita between Dresden Files, what might plausibly make Lolita worth the agony of being made to see the world through the filter of this guy's tiny, bigoted, self-aggrandizing mind? I'm not sure I can answer that question for all readers, but for me, around chapter 75, I perceived a shift had occurred without my noticing, and that shift was, I had somehow gone from being an observer of this poor girl's plight, as seen through the eyes of her abuser, to feeling like I was trapped in the clutches of this horrible man with her. It felt like we were plotting our escape together, waiting for dear old Dad to turn his back just a hair too long, or get a little too confident in his manipulation skills. A few chapters later, while reflecting on the text a bit further, I found myself asking out loud, why, Mr. Nabokov? Not why Lolita, but why tell this story from the point of view of the villain? The giving of such a generous spotlight to a fictional predator was far from the only way this story could have been told. Why not make Lolita the point of view character? Or even have Humbert's lawyer piece things together after the fact, since by the time we are reading Humbert's account of true events, both Humbert and his stepdaughter are already dead. Well, the good news is, based on what little else I have thus far read of Nabokov, I believe I can safely say that Humbert Humbert is not a self-insert, but as a recovering jail nurse, and a survivor of the attentions of someone who more or less saw me as this character. I would be very surprised if Lolita's narrator was not based on someone Mr. Nabokov personally knew, because almost to a human, predators like Humbert are natural-born rationalizers, seeing themselves as not only smarter and better than just about everyone around them, but faithfully seeing themselves as both the misunderstood hero and unjustly persecuted victim of society, complete with rationalizations such as, child brides were a normal, fine thing back in the day. Why do my proclivities toward young girls make me the asshole? Or, what about that guy over there? He is closeted gay. Isn't his secret urge just as bad as mine? A grotesque deflection, but one that just about screams the importance of stories like Lolita, because it is a grotesque deflection that still works. As in, sure, a whole lot of powerful people were regular guests at the makeout parties hosted by a certain renowned sex trafficker, but look at those extremely vulnerable people over there who didn't die in the 80s like they were supposed to. I think we all know who's the real danger to your kids, don't we, America? It is nothing short of sickening how effective this kind of fear-mongering still is at hiding genuine predators in plain sight, and I hate it beyond reason. Like, believe it or not, I do not consider myself an online shitstarter, and I do not like having to look this kind of evil in its beady little eyes any more than the next grumpy, jaded YouTuber. But the more we choose to look away and believe attitudes like those Mr. Nabokov showed us way back in 1955 don't exist, the easier it becomes for bad people to grow emboldened and further hurt the innocent. And just like in 1955, the world is still largely set up to shelter its Humberts more so than protect its Lolitas. The clearest symptom of the world's sickness in this regard, as Mr. Nabokov frames it, doesn't even come from Mr. Humbert.
True, not a single obscene term is to be found in the whole work. Indeed, the robust Philistine who is conditioned by modern conventions into accepting without qualms the lavish array of four-letter words in a banal novel will be quite shocked by their absence here. If, however, for this paradoxical prude's comfort, an editor attempted to dilute or omit scenes that a certain type of mind might call aphrodisiac, one would have to forego the publication of Lolita altogether, since those very scenes that one might ineptly accuse of a sensuous existence of their own are the most strictly functional ones in the development of a tragic tale tending unswervingly to nothing less than a moral apotheosis. The cynic may say that commercial pornography makes the same claim. The learned may counter by asserting that H.H.'s impassioned confession is a tempest in a test tube, that at least 12% of American adult males enjoy yearly, in one way or another, the special experience H.H. describes with such despair.
The way Humbert describes his own multiple assaults on his stepdaughter is pretty explicit and upsetting. And that's just the stuff Humbert felt comfortable sharing on purpose to try to make himself look like less of a monster. The contemptible child abuser he presents himself as is the best version of him that exists, and it is disgusting. But at least on paper, the society in which Lolita was trapped saw nothing particularly offensive in what Humbert reported he had done to his stepdaughter, or the many women he purposely hurt. The only reason he sees consequences for anything at all is because he confessed to the assault of another man. Not just another man, but a fellow child abuser who he saw himself as better than, for a reason. Okay, pencils down. Without going back in the video or looking anything up, can you remember the birth name of the little girl Humbert insists on calling Lolita? If you can, you are doing better than I did, because it took me until chapter 16 of getting gaslit by this clown into thinking his version of events was in any way one I should be believing, to shake myself loose and go, hold it. Dolores. Her name is Dolores, or Dolly to her friends, and you are most certainly not her friend, Mr. Humbert. That is a sobering thought. As repugnant as this particular unreliable narrator is, it takes conscious effort to not take his word for stuff, as he drags you into his world via the intimacy of first-person narration. And if you happen to hold firm to the belief that Nabokov's book has done more harm than good over the years, that folks who hurt kids while insisting all they want to do is love and protect them will see Humbert as a reliable narrator and in the right, you absolutely have a point. Not only is that an unfortunate possibility, it has already happened more than once. For instance, in the realm of language metamorphosis and slang. It brings me no pleasure to point out that, according to Wikipedia, the name Lolita, a pseudo-scientific feminine archetype made up by a fictional character to justify his erotic fascination with preteens, has become shorthand, quote, to portray young girls who attract adult desire as complicit rather than victimized, unquote.
It was she who seduced me.
My dude. If a preteen girl gets a crush on a man 3 times her age, she does not have the emotional vocabulary to recognize or work through her daddy issues, which makes it your responsibility as the grown damn man to shut that shit down, Mr. Humbert, not take advantage of her inexperience. And who could forget that fun 80s song by the Police? Nevertheless, it is my opinion that if we genuinely want to shut down the avenues that lead to real, live child abuse, we'll have better odds of doing that if we make ourselves aware of the tricks that are common among abusers, collectively decide if the world in which we want to live is one where people like Dolores Hayes feel safe, or people like Humbert feel entitled, and hopefully challenge that entitlement. That is, as I see it, the function and relevance of Lolita. to train its readers to recognize a rationalization for inexcusable behavior when they hear one, and not assume a kid is safe just because the grown-ups around them happen to look like our idea of normal. As always, thank you for giving these videos a shot. This is the kind of video one makes when one has never lost half their subscribers in a single upload and would like to know what it feels like. So if by chance this is the last time I get to talk to you, have a splendid day. You have my word, such as it is, that when I recorded this, I had greater safety for coming generations in mind, with zero interest in outrage peddling. Until next time, should there be one, take it easy. Loves you.